Once again, very warm good afternoon or good evening to all of you. Good evening. Yeah, that's right. So, in this session, we'll be talking about some energy transition trends and how we are seeing certain new emerging fuels that are coming up in the world, and a lot of work is going on to develop better, cleaner fuels and address the issues of climate change and the transition of energy mix towards a very clean, better, efficient energy mix. So when we talk about energy, some opening remarks I'd like to share with you on that. Number one, I think we all understand that energy is essential for life, for everyone, for human being, for any living organism. We should also recognize that sun is probably all the source of all kinds of energy in the world. Number two, we have learned all through our colleges and all, and I hope you all remember, that energy when consumed is not lost. It is not consumed. It converts into other forms or states or objects. We must recognize, and over a period of time, we have recognized, mankind has recognized that the choices that we make to use energy sources impacts the Earth's ecosystem in many ways. And many of those impact on the Earth's ecosystem we don't recognize unless really it becomes a dramatic, major impact on that. One of the things that I need to point out is that when you consider that oil is just few dollars as an energy source or cents, that is incorrect. Because the energy source that you use has a large impact socially, politically, financially, and environmentally. And if you aggregate all that impact, negative impact, adverse impact, the cost is very high. So you must really see that and understand that this is a cost, minimal cost that you buy, but then actual cost of using this energy is very important, is much larger than that. And therefore, in the pursuit of clean energy, there is a need, a dramatic, urgent need to change our behavioral pattern to use energy. Use it judiciously, use it in a cleaner way, and conserve as much as possible. There are various initiatives, attempts, efforts to really develop more energy sources and also to develop scenarios as to how the energy mix that we use today is going to change over a period of time, over decades. And there are several leading international companies, organizations, federations who have come together and developed several mechanisms involving all kind of data that is available to develop some kind of scenarios which give a likely future projections as to how the energy mix would be there 20 years, 40 years from now, 50 years from now. And all, while they may differ in their projections by few years here and there, but they all show a similar trend that the fossil fuel contribution in the energy mix by 2050 would be around 50% or so. The rest 50 will come from renewable, cleaner energy. So if that is a trend, how the companies are doing, how the organizations are adjusting, what are the new developments, that's very important to really see that. And all these scenarios are actually based on, at the same time, several detailed studies done on how the emissions are impacting it. We must all understand that these emissions that come into the atmosphere do not go away or fade away or get converted into a zero or kind of a ineffective emissions over a period of time. They remain there for decades. In fact, some of the constituents of these emissions can go up to centuries. So what is happening is that what emissions were there 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now are still there, and we are adding much more. So therefore, it's a definitely important task to cut down the present emissions of that. So we must really look at that. Today, world is adding on about 35, 36 gigatons of equivalent to carbon dioxide per annum, which has increased from 1990, I mean this period, from about 20, 21 gigatons per year. This is tremendous, and this is growing. So all these emissions are really creating problems and giving, as we understand all that, we have seen, we have followed the Paris talk, the Kyoto Protocol, also the recently held meetings at Sharm el-Sheikh or in Glasgow, which have dealt with procedure systems, how the industry, how the country should reduce emissions to bring down the temperatures. Right now, when the desired level of temperature rise of 1.5 degrees it is the target to remain at a reasonable level. But then if you examine right now, our industries, countries are operating in a way that is the temperature rise is more than 2.5. It's around 3 degrees or so, which is very, very alarming actually. I like to point out at this point in time one book, Plan B2 by Lester Brown, who had said that we are consuming from this world at a much faster rate than what the Mother Earth can actually create. And if we do not reverse or check our ways, our behavioral pattern, we have just about a decade's time to really revert back. Otherwise, the whole process of this will become irreversible. And therefore, it's very, very alarming that we should do that. So what are the basic trends of this energy transition? Number one, there is a tremendous pressure to reduce the emissions. But these emissions, as we note right now, remain stubbornly high until mid-30s, unless we do really dramatic changes in that. Number two, decarbonization of the industry is on the agenda, and where the industry and government have to work, but the pace of work is not satisfactory. Hydrogen and carbon capture schemes have a potential to transform the industry. The world is moving from more oil to cheaper oil as the demand is declining. We see the energy intensity also decreasing over a period of time by 2050, as also the demand also is decreasing, and most of this is coming from increased efficiencies of processes, systems that the companies and countries are using. We have seen the world multiple energy transitions from coal to oil, oil to natural gas, and from fossil fuels to renewable and decarbonized gas. So this is not new. But then what is new in this transition of energy this time is the pace with which there is an urgency that has come in. And that is what we should note on that. On this, how the sources are changing over a period of time by 2050, some of the projections say that coal would be the largest impacted fossil fuel. Well, its composition in the primary energy mix would reduce to almost 1/3 what it is right now. Oil would reduce as much as half of what is now. It is only the gas which is able to sustain by 2050. There's a marginal decrease projected in its share in the primary energy mix. And therefore, there are thoughts whether the gas can be called as a transition fuel, or it is a fuel which goes into use beyond 2050 as well on that. And within the gas, I think it is the LNG business which is actually set for a robust growth in time to come. So gas has to play an important role in the overall energy transition. Carbon capture and carbon capture, utilization, and storage is going to play an important role. In the perspective of our country, India, which is bestowed with the abundance of coal reserves, we also have a responsibility to see that coal is not neglected. But what we discussed in the previous session here, the challenge is how we use coal in a cleaner way, in a better way, so that we do not add on any additional emissions there. There are a lot of efforts worldwide into forming of the new fuels, actually, new synthetic fuels, which can be gainfully used by utilizing the carbon dioxide, that the major part of the emissions. And there are several major projects that are happening in the worldwide. For example, the MIT research group was successful in converting carbon dioxide into chemicals which can be used as fuels. Also, we have our eminent speaker from Germany, and I know that in a project from power to gas, Audi, the car manufacturer, and the MAN Energy Solutions have set up a 6 megawatt plant at Wörlte, Germany, which uses hydrogen and carbon dioxide in a methanation reactor to produce synthetic natural gas, SNR. And in the same continuation, 2,800 tons of carbon dioxide is absorbed in this plant itself. Based on this technology, another second plant is being set up in Chile, which will produce about 550 million liters of synthetic natural gas by 2026. There are many other projects that are worth mentioning. The focus on electric vehicle to reduce the automotive sector's consumption of fossil fuels and reduce the emissions we are experiencing in our country as well, where the projection is that by 2034, I think, 90% of the two-wheelers would have converted into electric. This is going to be a dramatic change. On the new low-emission fuels also, there are a lot of new developments. ExxonMobil, for example, has a 20,000 barrels a day renewable diesel by 2024. A successful pilot plant has already been established, which produces about 5,000 barrels a day from wood waste or plant wastes. We are also seeing emergence of hydrogen as a major fuel, which is perhaps the cleanest fuel available in the world today, as it does not create any emissions of that. But usage or transition to a hydrogen economy is not easy because there are several challenges. First, starting from large-scale production. Number two, storage. Number three is transportation. All need to be really addressed. If you want to really, for example, supply hydrogen through pipelines to your household, the same metallurgy of the pipelines will not be suitable. You need to change that. Storage, large storages which can be of commercial uses for long term is still a challenge. Liquefying hydrogen is a challenge itself. So how do you store large quantities of hydrogen on that? So there are plans to produce, store, use hydrogen in situ in a defined area on that. I think these are the efforts which will make us aware of the new technologies and the ways that we can perhaps transition to the desired non-polluting hydrogen economy in time to come. So these are the issues perhaps, and on the new fuels also that are coming up, utilizing the carbon dioxide, which is the main pollutant. I think these are the changes which can make this world transition to a better mix of energy sources in time to come. So in this session, we have two eminent speakers, Mr. Negi, who has driven one of the biggest gas company in the world, in the country, Gas Authority of India, and then also spent time to really have the regulatory mechanism in place for the gas industry. As the member of the regulatory board, I would request him first to make his presentation. Shri B.S. Negi, please. Yeah.